everyone. Welcome to our very first show at the Candid Conversation. I'm Shreya Dakshish Mistry, Founder Director, 60 Seconds Hospitality Logistics and Weddings. And I have Sonu Khanna here with me, who is a Founder Director at Eventario. So before we begin for our very first and a very special guest, I would like to share about our initiative. So the Candid Conversation is purely designed to explore the ground realities of our event and wedding industry. This pandemic has only shown us a mirror of what we are capable and incapable of doing. We are absolutely capable of getting through this situation, but we are incapable of doing it all by ourselves alone. Our show wants to bring everyone in harmony with each other and give you the idea of how we move forward because our industry demands from us to keep moving forward. Our purpose is simple. We want to deliver you everything that we are capable of doing right now, since many of us are trying to find our way in the current scenario. And I want to make you believe that we are meant for more, and that though this may not get over anytime soon, but we will always have the scope to improve and adapt with the new ways of working. And that is exactly the reason why we have chosen our first guest today. So what you already know about him is that he's a founder and a managing director of OMCPL, who just celebrated its Silver Jubilee, experting in creating India's largest IPs, such as the Worli Festival, Mumbai Shopping Festival, the Urbana Music Festival, and the first ever island festival, AXE Vodoo Festival, to name a few. But talking about what makes him so special is what he has been doing right now on the ground zero, helping government in fighting COVID-19 situations by building temporary centers across Mumbai. And he is the first person to introduce negative pressure ICU in our country. He is a visionary leader, a hardcore party animal, someone who talks his heart out without fear, all about building family, which is a major reason behind coming up with a Worli Festival, and a selfless patron Mumbai and our industry deserves. Please help me welcome Rahul Gomes.
Thank you, Shreya. Thank you for so many accolades, so many accolades.
How have you been?
All good, all good. I like the fact that we've actually not had this conversation on my introduction, unlike every other panel where there's this whole, pre-session, and you already kind of listed out most of which I, want to actually add into my introduction as well.
But I hope I did a good job.
Always, always. So congratulations, firstly, for Candid Conversations, first episode. I'm happy to be here on the first episode, and only you could pull me into something.
It's a debut for both of us.
Yeah, well, I've desisted for a long time, but you have your way, so it's nice to be here.
Okay, so now that everything we know about you, we know about us, for the first question, how did the thought of being selfless and being able to serve in this situation when people are staying indoors and trying to protect their families come to your mind?
So I think the first thought that came about is, see, when the pandemic actually hit worldwide, it had not really hit India. There was a lot of confusion about what it actually was. So everybody thought it was this whole SARS thing, which will come and go, and within a week, within 10 days, India as usual will never be affected. We saw a lot of people across the world, including friends who suddenly got helpless. We had friends, in fact, a fellow agency owner who's in Italy, showed us the view of the roads, showed us the situation in Rome where he was. And it shocked us because it actually brought a city to a standstill. And one of the first things that we learned when Italy actually went under was the biggest problem they had is they didn't have facilities. So the turnout of or the churn of patients vis-a-vis actual medical facilities was so bad. It was so, skewered that it led to people actually being chosen to be put into facilities vis-a-vis, everybody actually getting the same medical health. And that is something which actually worried a lot of people, because obviously with the population that we have in India, the first thought that came to mind is that if something happens here, what are we going to do? And I think that's the time, as soon as it came into India, we were very lucky. I worked very closely with Aditya Thackeray, who's a very, very close friend. And while all of this was happening, the first conversation I had with him was, Aditya, I don't think we'd have enough place. I don't think we'd have enough beds. Would you like us to build something for you? And this came about purely by way of the fact that it's actually what we as event managers do, right? So putting up a structure, a German hangar, air conditioning, electrical power outlets, the panels, everything is actually what we do for any other event. So it was basically just putting our thought process into a different area. And at that point, the Dome had opened up as the first kind of COVID facility here. And we were lucky that we had Dr. Mufada Lakdawala, who was there. And he actually, he was also learning on the job. And that's how it all began. We just came about and said, hey, you know what? This is going to hit our city. It's going to hit our city bad. How do we actually preempt? What do we do to actually work on getting our city safe? And it was a complete selfless. There was no money involved in the first hangar. In fact, I went to EMA saying, hey, listen, would you all guys like to, do this together? Can we get vendors together? I personally spoke to a lot of our partners, including the German hangar people, including the fabricators. And I said, hey, listen, it's our chance to do something for the city. Aditya, again, is a very young and very, very, very forward-thinking person. I detach politics from him because he's a person who we can actually have a general conversation about anything. And when I spoke to him, he said, okay, let's try it. Let's build a 400-bed structure and see how it goes. And we built that structure in a very, very ridiculous cost-to-cost kind of basis. And it worked. It was something which, immediately came into being. We set it up in about 10, 12 days. And, when you ask me, how did this come to mind? It is, number one is obviously, this is my city. It's given me everything I have for 25 years. But, the joy of actually setting up the first structure, the actual pleasure that you get, that you have 400 beds where people can actually, be treated. I think that's something which actually, you hold on dear to.
And I think that is something that even motivated you to get into more structures that you have been doing all this while.
Yeah, so actually, I didn't even look at it as a business model. The moment I finished one, I was asked to do the second. In fact, I didn't even finish one. We were in the middle of the first one. And I met the then BMC Commissioner Pardesi Saab, who came in. And he saw it and he loved it. And he asked me what the cost was. And he heard the cost and he was literally floored. And he said, oh, can you just build an extension of 800 beds? And we did that. Unfortunately, he moved and Chagla Saab came in and Chahal Saab came in. And he also saw it. And, the cost that we had actually worked on was, really, really minuscule, because we had actually spoken to partners and said, hey, you know what, hold on to 500,000 square feet of inventory. We'd really love to kind of work together on it. And, so we had everything we wanted, and we learned as we went along. So every center, every facility that was built was not pitched for, was not, business. It was purely somebody who came and said, hey, you know what, they built it in 1/3 or 1/4 the cost that, say, an MMRD or an ESCO was. And they said, hey, let's do it. And that's how it's been. And that's how it's been going on. It's, till today, we're getting calls from municipal corporations, from state governments saying, can you come in and, guide us? Can you, work together with us on it? So it's never been business. I think at times of pandemics, when you actually think business, it doesn't bode well. I think that also reflects in your confidence when you're talking to, the government or people like Aditya, because they see that you're in it for helping, not for, the money bit. And I think that makes a very big difference as well.
True, and I think what you're doing is remarkable. Like,
thank you. I think it's the company. I think that it's the people. So it was not only me. My teams actually put all their fears to the side. They all, I mean, through sickness and health, we had two people who passed away due to COVID. So we had an electrical engineer and a water contractor from the MCGM who passed during this period. We had about 7 people who actually contracted COVID while working with us. But the teams were on ground from 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the morning every day. We were on calls all night. All we wanted to do is get the deadlines in place so that when the numbers hit, when the numbers actually grew, there were enough. And we had these very candid conversations with while they were politicians in their own rights. This is people like Aslam Sheikh, Aditya Thackeray, Sanjeev Jaiswal, who's additional commissioner. And we used to sit down and say, hey, you know what? And we used to do an actual, paper calculation saying, hey, right now we have 12,000 people who have COVID. When in 10 days, these many will be cured, these many will get it again. So we were actually, building the track as we ran it. So we said, okay, by the 15th, we need 18,000 beds. By the 19th, 20th, we need 22,000 beds. And we were, just trying to stay ahead of the curve, at the same time calculating the curve. So I think it was a huge learning experience for us. And, I'm thankful that it's something we, just decided to dive into and do.
That's fabulous. So tell me something. Despite all the challenges that you went through, and I think the first fear that everyone had was going out into COVID and working, right? So how was your team so motivated to go out and be carefree and do everything so selfless?
I think it was the same feeling that I had, right? It was about you are one person, but a structure would actually help 1,000 people. So if you're willing to put yourself above that, you tend to actually get a lot more guts, very honestly. I have a lot of friends also who are doing their bit, who are doing a lot, in fact, all over the world. I think Kavita is here on this chat as well. She does a lot in LA for USC. She's got very close friends who have been affected as well. We've had friends who've been affected. We've been seeing what's happening around, but you can't keep yourself into a shell. Okay, the idea is that when you get out there and you learn more about what COVID is, it's something that you'd contract either ways. If you touch something, if you interacted with somebody, the chances of contracting it is massive. But it's not as bad as it's made out to be. It's not. I mean, if you were to take malaria and dengue and various other diseases, the death rate, the actual effect of that is far, far, far worse than COVID. If you actually decipher the numbers, so if you read the government numbers or the numbers that get out there, there is only you read the worst part. You only read, hey, X number of people have got COVID. You are not reading as to how many people have been cured of COVID. You are not reading in a city like Bombay. We have only about 1,200 people who are critical. The number of people who are contracting COVID per day is less than 700. So if you look at the positives, it actually gives you a huge amount of guts to go out there and say, hey, you know what? Whatever has to happen, happens. We had nearly 400 people on ground, and none of them had a fear. Once the partners started getting on ground, we ensured that the highest levels of safety. So everybody wore a mask. We had sanitizing at the site, but there was a greater cause. There was a need to actually consider this as a give back, and I think that overshadowed all the risk that we were possibly taking.
Do you want to say something about the negative pressure I see that you guys built up?
So like I said, right? So negative pressure, actually, let me correct you there. It does happen. So in every hospital, in an ICU, they have something called a negative pressure unit. So basically, a negative pressure unit actually takes away the virus. It actually lifts the virus. And in an ICU, a patient who has a very serious number of, let's call it, viruses is there. So the kind of virus load in an ICU is huge. So unless it is cleansed out, it's going to stagnate and stay in the air. And negative pressure unit actually does that. So we were not the first to do that in the city or in the country. We were the first to do that in a German hangar. So in an outdoor unit, we died doing it because it was an impossible task, and we had a taskmaster because the person who was doing the HVAC, which was the air conditioning for that, wanted it to come to -10. Whereas we managed to reach -2.5, and he said, no, 10, 10, 10. And I remember Kinjal actually saying, we don't know where the air is coming from. It's a hangar. And I think one of the ideas that Kinjal and her team had was that, Kinjal, by the way, is my executive director. And she said, hey, you know what, that fumigation machine, let's put it all around the hangar, and then let's stand inside and see our fumes, where is it coming from? And we found that. So we actually got that. We got the space from where the fumes were coming in, and we locked it down, and we got -10. So it was a huge thing, for the fraternity. It went to show that it is possible. But again, like I mentioned, this is all trial and error. That allowed us a learning curve to see as to what actually will work and what will not work now. And I think that's something which we have actually been advising people on, actually telling them how to go about doing it. And it's fun. It's learning is fun.
Learning is fun, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you see the entire scenario for the event industry post the COVID?
Okay, so I'm going to say this, and people are going to hate me, but people anyway hate me for what I say anyway, because I say it as I feel it. So I honestly feel that this whole, I mentioned it on another panel that I was a while back. People are changing their entire business structure. They are moving into digital, and that's great. That's really nice. The whole, mix of virtual and events. Unfortunately, and I think a lot of my colleagues will agree with me on this, there's no money in that. When you're used to doing this massive events, and we were on this very casual conversation. In weddings, what do you get in a 50% wedding? The whole show. And I think it's beyond that. A very good friend, I don't know if he's here, but a very good friend of mine, Siddharth Kannan, we were just, having this argument. I think Rima was also there on that. And this whole thing was, Rima and me were on this place where she said, for us, it's about the joy of actually doing the event, right? Being on ground, the shit that happens, the whole bigness of it, the rush that happens. And without that, there is no event. So when you go into a virtual event and all you're doing is, clicking a button and everything else, the IT systems take care of, you lose your, part of your life as to who you are as an event manager. And I think Sid, Sid is one of the biggest hosts in the country, and he turned around and said, yeah, but for me, I can do 5 shows a day because all I do is sit in front of it. But that's Sid. Sid is basically perfect in his right in saying that. But for a lot of us, it is about event managers. It's about the bigness of the event. It's about being on ground, feet on ground, the actual rush that comes in. And I do believe that is not far. Okay, I do believe that by the end of this year, we should be up and running back to our, I do Worli Festival with 200,000 people. So I am not looking at changing my dates for January 2021. Okay,
I'm sure we all are looking forward to that now.
Yeah, but I think we should. I think there are a lot of people who are who are learning, a lot of people who are growing themselves, and I think this is a period that you should take to do that. I don't think that you should, again, it's a very personal feeling for me, but I don't think one should change your entire business model, change your offices, build in-house studios. maybe it's also because I don't understand virtual events because it really goes above my head. But I think we are event managers, and that's a part of our blood. I think that never changes. I don't think whether it's a wedding manager or a MICE manager, and that goes from the promoters to the owners. It goes from the feet on ground promoters who run around to the owners, because in the end, that's what brings us a smile. That's what we take our shoes off after an event and rest ourselves, saying, hey, what, great event done. That's what it's always been about.
True. I think I somewhere agree, and I really hope that we all bounce back by the end of this year. 2020 has done all bad, but we are looking forward to everything positive now.
Yeah.
So how do you think we can bounce back as an industry and not an individual?
Okay, I'm going to keep it sane. I think, like I said, I think it's about spending time learning, growing. Okay, a lot of people are doing stuff, panel discussions and stuff like that. I'm not saying anything about it. I'm just saying that we don't know when this is going to end, but we know that there is going to be a start of our industry. So COVID is not going to end. It's like the mumps and the measles and the mumps and the dengues and the malarias and all of the world. It's always going to be there. There are always going to be a set of people who will get it. There is going to be a vaccine that comes into place. But I think that, there is a need for people to be positive. There is a need for people to actually take it in their stride, actually work towards bettering themselves. And I think that will actually lead to a different level of events that we build in the coming year. Because if you actually look at the kind of events that have started worldwide, if you look at the events that, that people have kind of started trialing and, understanding the impact that it has on COVID, on interaction, on enjoyment, excitement levels, in the UK, some in the US, some also in other parts of the world, in Europe. I think that it's a learning curve for us, because if we are able to integrate that into the events that we do, I think that's something that will take us a very, very long way.
Lovely. So as per the current scenario, now what do you think we must focus on primarily? Because I think it's going to take a while to get back. For the large scale events and weddings that we have been doing all this while, for the years we have been doing them.
Oh, I think weddings are already started. I saw a notification that had come from the UAE government about 1 person per 4 square meters. So I mean, that means if you have a venue of 4,000 square meters or 40,000 square meters, you can go back to your 1,000 people weddings. So I think Ras Al Khaimah has also started. I mean, it's not that that's not going to start. I think it started really fast. But I think, like I said, I think the biggest thing that one needs to look at is innovation. Because the more you innovate, the more you better yourself, the more you grow yourself, I think it leads to, it leads to a little different type of event. It leads to us not having to, a lot of us, when we do our events and when we do our weddings, we are so quick on the take. So you have a client who's called you and asked you for about a brief, and you have to get back to them within a week, 10 days. So also for events. Now is the time that your clients, the wedding industry, the kind of people who you're engaging with. It makes sense to actually pile those ideas now and say, hey, you know what? This is my library now. When the time comes, I can actually pace myself out and give you better product. It's as simple as that.
Do you think, how do you think are the event companies and the entire event industry as a whole, starting from the promoters to the entrepreneurs, are coping up with the financial instability right now?
Yeah, so that's something that's hurting a lot of people. Okay, I think those who have had the capacity to hang on have stayed on. I think we will see a lot of agencies shutting shop because whether it's rent or salaries, the costs are something that a lot of people may not be able to bear. But I think, like I said, I think it's something that, people have to take in their stride, because there's nothing that you can do that will change that. You can either put your head down and, be negative about it, or, I'm sorry, my dog's going on a rampage. So, Casper, so, you can either be negative and get depressive about it, or you can actually be happy and turn around and say, hey, you know what? Let's take it in a positive stride. Let's look at, how do we make things work? As a company, we also went into, taking out staff. We went into reducing salaries. The mandates that the industry followed through and through in order to ensure that the company ran. But yeah, I do get what you're saying. There are a lot of people who are facing a lot of financial strain. I think there are a lot of people who, and especially our support industries, our MCs, our artists, a lot of them, I think they are just, they're having a tough time. And I have been reaching out to a lot of people saying, hey, listen, you want to talk, you want to have a conversation, let's, talk. But I do know a lot of people who are actually using this time to grow themselves. A lot of them who are actually learning new languages, who are taking up yoga, those who can. I mean, the rest have to just kind of, take it in their stride. That's all that I can say.
True. So what is here to stay even after COVID is curable and it's safer to go out?
I think we'll go back just to our original format of India events. I do believe that there will be a need of general precautions, okay? Because I think people have actually, and I know it may sound really crass, but I think that people have actually learned the meaning of sanitization. Because I don't think in their life they would have actually sanitized themselves and sanitized their hands as much as they've done in the last 4 months. So I think that is the need of the hour. I think that is something that people will continue doing. I do think that a lot of learning that has come over this last 4 months will be put into our businesses that we move on further. And more importantly, since you pointed it out yourself, I think people will also become a little more cautious on their financial spends. So I think people will look at the saving bit. I think people will look at the, not the shosha kind of a thing. I think people will go a little easy. I think considering the fact that the market has taken a hit over the last 6 months or 5 months, I think a lot of corporate houses will, even though COVID is cured, even though COVID, vaccine comes out, I think the market will take its time in recovering and recuperating and getting back to its original kind of levels. But I think those things are here to stay. I think it's a long haul as far as all that is concerned. But yes, I do believe that there is a future of events. Weddings will never stop because everybody has to get married. But yeah, I think a lot of them who've taken a hit will cut budgets, will reduce, a lot of the shosha and go back with great ideas that, give them a feel of the shosha, but at the same time, our economical nature. So I think economy is here to stay. I think that is here to stay. So if you build that into innovation, which we've done over the last 4-5 months, I think together that will be the future in terms of what's to stay.
Sweet. So I think according to you, the things are just going to be getting intimate and smaller in quantity, but better in quality. And
I think, yes, I think quality is something that is going to come about. I think economy is something that is going to come about. More than that, I don't think, I think big events are going to happen. I mean, I'll be out of a job then. So IPs will be here to stay. We have yet not been told by anybody that our IPs are to be cancelled or our IPs will not happen. All the IPs that we have, all that we've been told is we'll move it further. So none of that is, so that will happen. But yeah, from a client perspective, from a corporate perspective, from a social perspective, there will be a little bit of, hold back purely because, people have lost a lot of money. Obviously, unless you're in a wedding where either the boy or groom are in the pharma industry or any of the medical industry, because they have made a killing. So, I mean, that would become a 200 crore wedding instead of a 100 crore wedding.
So, okay, fine. So, any closing statements you would want to share with everyone watching you here?
Oh, so I just think that, I think the biggest cure, or I believe the most effective cure for COVID is positivity. Okay, I think the fact that you can laugh every day, you can get up smiling, you can, think, you can put it into your mind that this is not the end of the world. I think that itself makes you feel stronger. Okay, when we got up for the last 2 months every day, going at 9 o'clock in the morning. I remember you grumbling because I was not able to speak to you for, I think, a month. And I heard a lot of bad words from you, but it is, every morning when you get up, you can either think of it, see the numbers and say, hey, you know what, so many people have got COVID, or you can think about it and say, hey, we are a billion plus and so many have not got it, and you look at figures across the world, you look at people around you, look at friends and family. I think once you do that, there's a lot of positivity. And trust me, I know people who've got COVID, and even with COVID, they've been so positive. They've been, so what? We've got it. I mean, let's move on. I mean, they've been home quarantined. They've been, I received a beautiful mail a few days back for one of the first patients who went into a structure that we built, a 1,600 bed structure that we built in Mulund. And it felt nice. It's like what we say when we get our elders' blessings. We always feel that, that there is that chaya on top of you, that blessings. It feels nice. So the more you're positive, I think COVID doesn't have a chance coming next year. So I think it's not, the shit is going to happen. It's not going away. It's going to happen. But, as long as you keep a positive mindset, I think that works. So that's my only feedback.
Amazing. So we have some questions here from people watching us. Sushma asks you, how did your team overcome the fear mindset?
Yeah, well, Sushma, come over to my house more often. But but like I said, I think it was more so it was more so the feeling of doing good. And when when we went to site, the first few days, we were shit scared. So to give you an example, when we took over the first racecourse site, the first day that we were at the racecourse, if you remember, that was the time where all the migrants were also, rushing to go back.
Yes.
My teams were on site, and I had 3,000 migrants who landed up at the venue. Without masks, without anything, they all landed there because they needed to do a sit-in, and my labor was there, and they just landed up there. And my team were paranoid. They were paranoid because, COVID was in the air. But I think the more we got into it, the more we saw the happiness on people's faces when they were cured, the more we read that there was an urgent need in the city. And we had a person like Aditya who always stood up and said, hey, listen, you know what? You guys are doing an amazing job. I can't thank you enough. Though he led the way, though he was on ground every single day. When you have that, all those fears go out. And I think my team, hats off. I had Francis, who I remember him calling me up and he's saying, Rahul, I've got a COVID case and my neighbor has got COVID. So, the BMC is not allowing me to leave because obviously, it was you had to lock down the entire building those days. And I actually had to call the additional commissioner. I said, well, this is what he's doing. So he got out. But, usually in most cases, the parents would say, hey, listen, you'll stay put, no going out of the house. But not once during the 60 days did I get a call from any of my team's parents, anyone saying, hey, listen, we are scared. Not once did any of my teams complain, even though they were unwell, they were, tired. They were working through the night. Not once did they say, hey, you know what? We really can't do it. Not one member of our team. So
I think because as far as I have seen them working, and as far as I know them, and I know you have kept everyone motivated all through the years, and you still keep doing that.
I think it takes a tribe. Yeah. I think it's you know, it's always two ways. It's never a single way. I think they motivate me. Okay, and touch wood, you know, they've always been positive influences in the company.
Sweet. So Navritu has a question. Do you see a rise in incentive from the pharma companies in the immediate future? Should
Oh
the
yes,
destination be for that segment?
yes, of course. Navritu, yes, of course there will be, because I think pharma will go back to its own old. But you know, pharma has always been the type who have a very clear ratio of spend vis-a-vis, you know, profitability. So I think drug to drugs, I think they will increase their spend. I think incentive to us will jump. I think, like I said, I think people will cling on to or fight tooth and nail to actually get more business. And I think that while we say that, it means that they're going to actually spend more. They're going to run after more people than they earlier did. Earlier, the market was such ki, acha, theek hai, aapko karna hai to kar lo types. But now they know that it's going to be tougher to get people. So they will be looking at, you know, increasing spend to get people in as well. So yeah.
And she also has a question: which products resorting to plastic disposables during this time what do you think will happen to event resorting to eco and sustainable measures?
I think so. First and foremost, I must say that I think that while people hate me for saying this, I do believe that COVID was good to some extent for the environment. Let me repeat, for the environment, because I think we've never seen a cleaner environment than we have now. I think we finally, I mean, a lot of us have seen these pictures and videos of, you know, animals on the roads, and, you know, whales finally coming in and dolphins coming in into Gateway of India. So I think, yes, I think it's really good for the environment. I think environmental initiatives will take off in a very, very big way. As far as plastics are concerned, Amrita, I have no idea, but yeah, I think you know, not only event managers, but I think everybody has become a pharmacist in some way or the other, because everybody I know is selling PPE uniform, PPEs and masks and name it. I mean, I have friends who from the event industry who are selling respirators. So, you know, and they're pretty fluid at it. It's not that, you know, they're just giving a machine. They actually tell you the entire configuration of it. And so I do believe that people have started learning a lot about it. I think that they're far more conscious about it than earlier. And I think that's going to lead the way in the future.
Superb, Rahul. I think you explained everything so wonderfully on how we as event managers could put our skills to work in service for the country in times like these. And we are grateful that we could get you on the first show. We are very grateful I could get you on this show.
You
I'm sure
bullied
it is.
me.
Huh?
You bullied me.
I didn't know anything of that sort.
Okay, I think Gitu has a question. Giti's mentioned, how will 2021 look? Gitu, you're going to be at the top of every show in 2021. Okay, like I said, I think it's gonna rock. It's gonna be the best year of the decade, if not more.
I think let's keep our fingers crossed.
So thank you very much for having me, and all the very best for your show for the future episodes. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I think I'll see you on the backstage, and I'll take this further.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining in.